Hello, welcome back to the channel. So what are we going to be talking about in this video? Well, when I did the basic equipment, I went through all the letters that you'll find when you're looking around at scopes and what they mean, but I left something out, so we're going to cover that today. SFP and FFP, what do they mean and what's the difference? And the turrets, you'll find a reference to MOA and MILs. What's that all about? So that's what we're going to cover today. So let's roll the titles. So here we go then. So I mentioned before about all the different nomenclature when you're buying scopes and what they mean, but a couple of things I didn't cover were you will see reference to FFP and SFP. Now what do they mean? Well, FFP is first focal plane and SFP is second focal plane. Now the difference between the two comes down to the reticle. Okay, on a first focal plane scope, as you change the magnification of the scope, the reticle actually changes size so that your aim points and the relative dimensions of the reticle stay relevant to the magnification. So, say for example, you were on 1 times magnification, and your aim point on your reticle would be 1 mil dot. Once you've got that aim point at 1 mil dot, whatever magnification you adjust the scope to, be it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times or more, your aim point will stay exactly the same, because the size of the reticle that you see through the scope will grow to compensate, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, the reason that they do that is obviously when you're hunting, if you don't want to have to keep adjusting your turrets and you want to zoom in and out because you're shooting at different distances depending on where your quarry is, you're going to want to know that whatever magnification is set on your scope, your aim points are going to be the same. So that being said, as you probably can imagine, first focal plane scopes might not be the best choice for HFT, target shooting and garden plinking, for the simple reason that you're probably in those disciplines you're not going to be changing your magnification that often, so therefore what the reticle does is not really that relevant. Plus the fact, if you look at the prices, first focal plane scopes will be significantly more expensive than second focal plane scopes. So that's FFP, first focal plane. Second focal plane then, the reticle is actually etched on the glass, so when you change magnification, the reticle is the same size no matter what the magnification is that you look through the scope. So therefore, because it's the same size, every time you change the magnification, your aim points are going to be changed. So whatever you're shooting at, say 1 mil dot at 10 times, is going to be slightly different. Your point of impact is going to be different if you use the 1 mil dot that mil dot aim point at, say, a magnification of 8 times or smaller. Okay, but as I mentioned before, if you are setting your scope to 1 magnification and using that predominantly, then that is going to be of little concern. So that's the difference between the two of those. The thing that I mostly want to discuss today, that is probably something that confuses people a lot more, is when you buy a scope, your turrets on your scope will be designated as either MOA turrets or MIL turrets, MILs or MOA. Okay. Now what they are MOA is minutes of angle, which is an imperial measurement, and mils are milliradians, which is a metric measurement. Okay, So you might find that your scope will have, well, you'll find that your scope will either have MOA adjustments for each click or MIL adjustments for each click. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the white screen and go through, because it's going to make a lot more sense of me showing you the figures than me just reading them off here. So we're going to switch over to the white screen now, and I'll go through the differences and what that means for your the clicks on your turrets, and then we'll come back here to sign up. Okay then, here we are on the white screen for the first time, and we're going to look at the difference between scope turrets, principally the differences between MOA and MRAD. So to begin with then, we're going to look at MOA, which stands for minutes of angle. Now, if you remember back to your school days, you will remember that in a circle there are 360 degrees, and every degree can be further subdivided into 60 minutes. So there are a total of 21,600 minutes in a circle. So gives you an idea of what we're talking about minutes, the subdivisions. Now, MOA, minutes of angle, relates to imperial distance, so we're talking yards, feet and inches. Common classification of a turret on scopes that you'll find, MOA scopes, is they will be invariably quarter MOA turrets. And what that means is that every time you click a turret, click the turret one click, your point of impact at 100 yards will move a quarter of an inch. That'll either be left or right or up or down, depending on which turret you adjust. So basic calculation then, at 25 yards, that means that one turret click equals a point of impact change of 1/16 of an inch. Okay, simples. So moving on to MRAD, which stands for mil radians, or sometimes just shortened to mil. What is a radian? Right, this is where it can get pretty complicated, so we'll try and keep this as simple as possible. As you see here, it says a radian is an angle whose corresponding arc in a circle is equal to the radius of the circle. Now that might not mean a lot, so if I put up a picture, you can see here the radius of the circle is a line drawn from the center of the circle to the circumference. So if you draw two radii and they are equal to the distance round the circumference, so the length of the circumference between those is equal to the radii, so in effect, if that was a straight line, it would be an equilateral triangle, but it's not. 1 radian would equal the measurement of the arc between the radii. Simple. Well, it's not exactly simple, is it? But we don't need to know that. So moving on. MRAD relates to metric distances. So we're talking about meters, centimeters and millimeters. So we can see we've got one which is imperial and one that is metric. And if you were to look at your MRAD turrets, invariably it would be marked up as 1/10 MRAD. Okay, that's the probably one of the most common MRAD scope turrets. And in that situation, one turret click would move your point of impact 1 centimetre either up or down, left or right, at 100 metres. So consequently, well, we've made a little bit of adjustment here because we want to keep the yards so we can compare like with like. So at 25 yards, one turret click would equal a point of impact change of 0.23 centimetres. Obviously at 25 metres that would be 0.25, but we want to compare like with like, so we're going to keep it with yards. So in comparison then, at 25 yards on a quarter MOA turret, one click equals 0.06 inches or 0.16 centimetres, and on a 1/10 MRAD turret, one click equals point of impact change of 0.09 inch and 0.23 centimetres. So you can see there that with a quarter MOA turret, each click is going to move your point of impact change by about 2/3 of the distance of a 110 MRAD turret. So I hope that all makes perfect sense, trying to keep it as simple as possible. And we're back in the room. So I hope that wasn't too complicated, but as you can see from those comparisons, you can get a better, more accurate level of adjustment if you're using a MOA turret than you are an MRAD turret. And depending on what type of shooting you're doing, you might need that finesse in that level of adjustment. So it's something to consider when you're deciding on your scope. So that's all I've got for this video. As I said before, if you found that useful, you think other people might find that useful, then please hit the thumbs up button to give us a like, and what that will do is that will enable the video to show up in other people's accounts, so they'll find it easier. And if you want to see what's coming up, we're going to now we've got all the equipment and the basic stuff out of the way, we're going to start getting into a bit more meat and potatoes about setting up your rifle to get the best out of it, and also learning how to shoot, to tips and techniques to actually help you shoot better, whatever type of shooting you do. So don't forget, in order to see what's coming up, click on the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, and while you're subscribing, hit the bell icon and you will then get a notification when I post a new video. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye for now.